Just 8 games on the MLB card tonight. Sure, it's a short slate, but it's not the size of the slate. It's what you do with it. And we're going to look for some winners here on this Monday card in MLB. And trying to find these winners, I got Bryan Power and Adam Trigger with me today. We're going to talk Reds, Rockies, Mets, Nats, Blue Jays, Orioles, Diamondbacks, Giants, Brewers, Phillies, Tigers, Rangers. I mean, there's only 8 games. Probably I can get these guys to hit on every single one of them for you. So we'll see what we can get you here live on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. While you're hanging out with us, make sure you hit that like button. We would greatly appreciate it. But gentlemen, let's get into it. Reds, Rockies. BP has some thoughts on this game right out of the gate. It's Abbott, it's Feltner, and we're looking at pretty much a pick-em price in this one, BP. So how are we betting it?
Yeah, so interesting 2 last-place teams. Both have been playing better as of late. Reds have won 6 of 9. They swept the Dodgers during that stretch. And the Rockies, they come in winning 3 of their last 4 series, but the one exception was over the weekend to the aforementioned Dodgers. And they were shut out on Sunday. It's notable because Colorado 1-6 this season off a shutout loss. But that's not the primary reason I'm fading them here. I want to point everyone to the run differential column, where you'll see the Reds -7 on the year, the Rockies -79. That tells me there's a clear gap between these 2 ball clubs, not accurately reflected in the price. The Reds have generally been more competitive over the balance of the season. Now, I talked about this game this morning on the Morning Wager with Mark Zinno, but I want to bring it back up because the way the price has shifted, we're getting even better price on the Reds than what I liked them at this morning, and I really don't understand why. Andrew Abbott on the mound for Cincy. He did blow up his last time out, gave up 6 runs, but that's out of the norm for Abbott. 3.29 ERA, 1.12 whip for the season. Last start marked just the second time all season Abbott's allowed more than 2 earned runs in 2024. I know it's going to be the first time he's pitching at Coors, but I think he's going to do just okay, or he'll do better than okay. Meanwhile, Feltner for the Rockies, he blew up last time as well, gave up 7 runs, and that is not out of the ordinary for him. He's allowed 5 or more in 4 different starts this season, 5.61 ERA, 1.5 whip as well. In addition to having the better starter, the Reds have the better bullpen. I don't understand the line move, and I'm gladly going to take the better team at what I consider a very generous price. Give me the Reds, who I think are going to start moving up the NL Central standings here in the immediate future, while the Rockies are staying in last in the NL West.
Maybe some buy signs for the Reds, says our man Bryan Power. WT.buzz/BP is where you can find him over at WagerTalk. Shout out to the chat joining us here live. We got our man Wisconsin guy working on setting up a Discord server for you first pitch viewers and listeners. Pretty cool stuff. Hardworking Wisconsin guy in the chat. Shout out to you, BJ, Rich, Tyler. We appreciate everyone joining us live here. Make sure if you haven't already, you hit that subscribe button. Adam Trigger, Blue Jays, Orioles. This is a game we were hearing about earlier today. Steve Merrill had some thoughts on Wager Talk today live on the Wager Talk TV YouTube channel. So I'm wondering if we got agreement with Steve Merrill, or how you're looking to bet this game. The Battle of the Birds going there. How are you looking to bet this one, Trey? Gausman and Rodriguez, for what it's worth. And another tight price, like a lot of solid prices here on a Monday. Phillies game notwithstanding, but we'll get to that one later. Your thoughts on this one, brother?
Well, truthfully, I missed Steve's spot earlier, so I have no idea who he likes here. And so I'll just give my opinion, independent of that. And you can either we're going to be on the same thing, or you could pick whatever handicap you like better, I suppose. My gut is telling me that the Jays are starting to head in the right direction, and that they're probably the right side here. So I'm going to give a little bit of for and against for this particular matchup. But listen, the Blue Jays just won 5 of 6. You could sit here and tell me that, yeah, it was the White Sox and the Pirates, but this was kind of a team that just needed some momentum. Looking at where they've gotten to this point, like, I don't think anyone's going to argue that the Jays have talent on their roster and they're supposed to be better than they are, in the win-loss column so far this year. But they just seem to not be able to get out of their own way. So I do think it's notable that they've won 5 of their last 6 and now bring some momentum into what really is just a massive series for them. Now, I brought up just a gut feeling that the Jays were going to do well in this series because the numbers maybe suggests that's not the case out of the respect that the Orioles have owned the AL East. The Orioles have absolutely owned teams in their division. The last 19 series the Orioles have played in the AL East, they're 14-0-5. Those 5 being like they split 4-game series or a 2-game series. 14 wins, 0 losses, and then 5 pushes in the last 19 series in the division. So that certainly doesn't bode well for the Blue Jays. But I just have a feeling here that Kevin Gausman, he runs hot and cold. Right now, he seems to be hot. Back-to-back starts, 6 innings, 1 run, 10 strikeouts against the Tigers. That's now 3 straight quality starts for Gausman, and he's a streaky guy. If you go look at his career, he'll have stretches where he's not great. He'll have stretches where he's borderline unhittable, and maybe he's in one of those right now. But I guess my strongest take is that I think Grayson Rodriguez might be building to getting blown up in a potentially bad start. He just hasn't looked sharp. I think he's been able to wiggle out of, maybe the numbers catching up with him. I go back 2 starts ago against the White Sox. His line wasn't horrible, just 2 runs over 5 innings. I think he gave up 3 hits, but the 5 walks in that start were not good. And that came on the heels of, I believe he had like 11 walks over the course of 3 starts. So he kind of got away with some there. Last time out against the Red Sox, they knocked him around a little bit for 4 runs in 6 innings. He did get his 10 strikeouts, so he's got sort of the flash, numbers there against the Red Sox, but they still scored 4. He just hasn't been sharp enough, in my opinion, to be totally confident with him going on the road to the Blue Jays when it feels like they're starting to heat up. And the Blue Jays did get to him a little bit last year, 8 runs in 16 innings. So, I mean, it's not anything crazy, but they did, have some exposure to him. They did hit him. And I wouldn't be that surprised if they knocked him around again here. Now, the end of this game is just a total crapshoot because neither of these bullpens have been good. The Orioles lead the American League with 12 blown saves this year. The Jays have one of the worst bullpen ERAs in baseball, 4.56. I think, had Yimi Garcia not thrown close to 30 pitches yesterday, I'd probably make the Blue Jays a client play here. But that's tough. Like I think he threw 28 or 29 pitches. He's definitely going to go tonight. Like if it comes to it and the Blue Jays have the game on the line, and he is their best reliever. It's not even a question at this point. But he's not going to go more than 1 inning. It's not going to be a scenario where he can give you more than sort of like the 1 inning save type deal. So someone else is going to have to piece together those other innings. Hopefully for the Blue Jays case, it's a longer outing from Gausman. He's gone 6 innings in 3 straight starts. But that could be the issue there. So I do lean Blue Jays. I'm not sure if it's going to make my client card. But one thing you could do, Dan, maybe like if you can bet in game, maybe an in-game over if the first 5 stays under, right? Like let's say both starters, let's say Grayson has it. Let's say Gausman has it like I think he is, right? Let's say you get to the 6th or 7th inning and you're sitting there like 2-2 with the opportunity, and it's a close game with the opportunity to go to extra innings. I love an in-game like live over at that point because I think you're going to have chances on both sides to score late. And as you guys know, if it goes to extras, it's a free-for-all. In extra innings, we're still putting ghost runners on second base. For what reason, I don't know. So maybe an in-game over. If the 2 starters are good, you might have some value there.
Yeah, and I don't want to gloss over it because your point is a fair one, especially when you're looking at a total sitting at 7.5. But you saw flash across the screen some of these bullpen usage numbers that Joe had queued up here for us. So it helps maybe being able to break down and think, hey, does this really make sense? Depending on who's maybe gone deep, which names are really going to be used. Before we move on to the next game, any thought about that potential live look for you in this one, BP?
This is a really hard game to call for me because, Gausman, I didn't want to play against either starter. So it was an interesting tidbit that Trig threw out about the live look because, yeah, I mean, you talk about the bullpens and if one of these guys blows up, I think it could be there. But that is not something that was on my radar, but was a really good point by Trig.
Yeah, and I'm definitely with you. Hop below here in the comments. Let us know when you're betting live. Do you come in with maybe a preconceived notion of how you can attack it if it goes that way for you pre-flop? How do you potentially attack your live betting slate? Because sometimes that can be the best wager you can come. Come in with a strong handicap and maybe see it can save you, maybe keep you off of a loser, might even end up putting you on a winner. So how do you attack live betting in baseball? We'd love to hear from you below in the comments. Anthony Thornhill, my man, was chiming in saying Phillies money line. Well, you got to lay a price to do it. I mean, you can shop around to get it under $2, but it's you got to search to find it because you got Zach Wheeler on the bump. I don't know if you guys have seen any more on what pitcher we might be getting here for Milwaukee, but looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, that's still showing undecided. The total in this one,
I think it's going to be Bryce Wilson.
8. Okay.
I'm
so Bryce
I'm
Wilson.
Like certain it's going to be Bryce Wilson. Yeah.
All right, Drake. So let's start with you on this game then. Anthony Thornhill saying Phillies money line. I mean, at that price, you have to think it would be a parlay piece more than anything. But any thoughts if it is Bryce Wilson as you expect it to go, how that maybe views how you would handicap this game?
Yeah, I think the Phillies could light the Brewers up in this series. Like, they're coming off. I don't love playing the teams off of a loss, like the Sunday night loss. That's kind of like I don't know if it's like a cliche at this point, but if you go back like over the years, the team coming off of the Sunday night game I think I would need like actual numbers, but I think it tends to be an okay fade. And of course, the Phillies lose in extras last night, but I think they're going to bounce back no problem. Potentially over the course of the whole series, Bryce Wilson can't continue to do what he's done as a starter. He profiles as a far more average pitcher, but since they moved him in the starting rotation, he can kind of do no wrong. I believe his ERA is right around 3. I would expect it to be at least I'd expect it to be over 4. So, and Wheeler's just a stud. So it's like you're going to need a decent outing from Wilson probably to hang around in this game. So I agree with our viewer right there. I think the Phillies probably take this one, and I would even continue to look toward the Phillies tomorrow. They're going to go up against Colin Rea, another guy I think that lineup could handle no problem. So you might get a little bounce back from the Phillies after a little bit of a disappointing result last night.
Yeah, and the Brewers, for what it's worth, I mean, they're going to head into Citizens Bank Park feeling good about what they've been doing, at least in the last 10 games, finally heating up for themselves a little bit. And BP, you pointed out before the show here, this is a stretch for the Phillies that they're actually going to be playing some somewhat quality opponents. When we say somewhat, we mean teams that are over 500. It really hasn't been the usual schedule here for the Phils as far as it goes against quality opponents. So any thoughts? Because I know you're still maybe a little bit frustrated with how the Phils ended up that series last night. So any spite bet you have in this one?
Yeah, apparently your checks to Rob Manfred's office, Dan, have run out because, yes, the Phillies, I believe for the first time since the first series of the year, are playing a team with a winning record here. Just to piggyback off a couple things that Trigg said last week, both teams coming off the Sunday night game, which you remember was rain delayed, and then they had to play in the afternoon. Both of them lost. And then also Wilson, last 3 starts, 4.97 ERA, 1.89 WHIP. You have to get creative with the Phillies. I would play them over their team total 4.5 here because, look, they average 5.7 runs per game at home. You think if they win here, they probably put a crooked number on the board. So that's the way I would do it with them.
Yeah, and our man Tyler chiming in with one of my favorite bets, and that's when you try and find one of these big favorites, and if you think they're going to be leading and the starting pitcher can go a little deep like you expect Wheeler to go, he likes Wheeler to record the win. I'm not staring at the price here, but Dub Lewis is also chiming in. Wheeler, 5 or more strikeouts, easy, a potential same-game parlay piece for him. Dub Lewis also says Phillies money line, bet the house, take the money is what he's saying. So Trig, any thoughts? I know you don't dabble as far as client releases in these pitcher props, but it's something that you definitely handicap as pitching matchups. You think Wheeler could go deep in this one? Is his strikeouts worth a look, or for him to record a win? You think halfway through the game when they start moving through and heading to the bullpen, he could be leaving the mound with a lead and they seal it up for him? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I don't use them as client releases that often is it's difficult for everyone to get down on that. Like, that's not
true.
always offered. But yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. You're isolating the starting pitching matchup by doing that, and that's kind of was my angle here, was playing against Wilson. So yeah, why not? If you have Wheeler to record a win, you got to think you're going to get at least 6 from him, and you would have to think that if the Phillies get to Wilson, that they've got a lead going into the later innings. So as long as they can make it hold up, which I feel like the odds are in their favor, right? Like after losing one late last night, they probably make a lead hold up tonight. Yeah, I don't hate that at all.
Mets Nationals game coming up here. Go ahead, BP.
Yeah, the Phillies do need to probably get off to a lead here as well, because the Brewers have a big edge when this game gets to the bullpen. So I think it's imperative. I know they're off the Sunday night game, and I co-sign with what Trigg said. It's a tough spot when teams come off that. Like I said, both teams lost last week. But the Phillies in this price range, I mean, they've done well for what it's worth. They're 9-1 this year when they're a home favorite of -175 to -250. So is unappealing as laying that kind of price is. They usually do win, but they need to get off to a good start in order to get this done, because the Brewers do have a better bullpen.
Shout out to the chat. Hal, L, Tyler, Rich chiming in, Kelly, Vincenzo, and over on the YouTube shorts, Tawancha Ray, R.U. Zen chiming in. I always love the names. If you want to see the craziest names, head over to WagerTalk's Instagram page and check out some of the comments that are dropping over there. That's where the true names are at. All right, guys, let's swing it here to the Rangers game. It's Texas against Detroit. We had a couple different questions about this one. Most recently, we had BJ wanting to get your thoughts on this. He also wants to hear Mets Nationals. That's coming up in Best Bets from our man Bryan Power, so hang around for that. But another question that was in the chat earlier was, do we trust Skubal with a nice price here? I mean, again, a game that kind of bounced around a pick 'em a little bit, and you're seeing a action going here on both sides. We're seeing action going towards the under, even though the over at 7 is still juice, but we lost that hook. So a lot of action going on Eovaldi and Skubal, and I'm wondering for you, BP, any thoughts in this one?
Yeah, I'm interested what Trigg would have to say about this as well. The Tigers are a fascinating team to follow, how they've been priced. I find that they're priced better than I think they actually are. I think they're a mediocre team. I don't think they're a good team. I think they're a team that's going to wind up right around 500 for the year. The AL Central, sans the White Sox, is very competitive, much more competitive than we thought at the start of the season. And Skubal's been great, but I don't know if Detroit should be priced like this in Arlington. The Rangers are obviously not as good as they were last year when they won the World Series, but these two teams are pretty comparable. And Eovaldi his fastball velocity looked great in his first start back from the IL. If you go back to before that stint, Eovaldi, his numbers have been good as well. So I faded Detroit twice in that previous series they had with Boston. First 5 bet on Friday, they lost there pretty convincingly. On Saturday, they were priced competitively against the Red Sox. I think they closed as a slight underdog, but they opened as a slight favorite, similar to what we have here today. And they lost that game on Saturday. You look what they did yesterday. Okay, they won 8-4 to salvage a 4-game split. But remember, that was a come-from-behind effort, guys, and that was in extra innings. They put up 4 runs in the 10th. So I don't know. The Tigers, to me, get priced a lot as if they're better than what I think they are. So I have a slight lean to Texas here based on price.
Hey, and since the calendar has changed, maybe it was just May. Maybe Texas just needed June. They're undefeated in the month of June, although they did play the Marlins. So I guess I don't know if you can glean much from that. It's a decent step up here in opponent. Trigg, what say you in this one?
Well, Brian's 100% right. The Tigers' win total over was one of the most popular win total bets going into the season. So he's definitely right about that. The books have priced them as like an 86, 87 win team all year, in my opinion. I believe their season win total was over like 82 and a half. And they're a sub 500 team, which is exactly what I've expected them to be. I've played against them quite a bit. And I would continue to play against them. Now, I'm not dying to play against Skubal. I'll say that. Like he wouldn't be the guy I would pick to oppose it right now. But the Rangers are probably a better than 500 team. Remember, they were totally decimated by injury coming into this season. Then the whole Jack Leiter thing didn't really work out. I think they tried to call him up on 2 or 3 occasions. He's top pitching prospect, and he got lit up every time he came up. So they've kind of fought some adversity for the first 2 months of the season that I think they'll continue. You're already starting to see them come around a little bit recently. I believe 5-1 in their last 6 games. I know the Tigers are in a bit of a roster shuffle. They sent Spencer Torkelson down. I do like Justin Henry Malloy, who's the kid that they're going to call up in his place. I'm sure he'll be in the lineup tonight. So maybe that's a little positive shakeup in that spot in the batting order because Torkelson's been struggling. But I'm with Bryan. It would have to be Rangers or pass here because I don't know where I can't buy the Tigers being a favorite on the road to the Rangers, who I think they're clearly the better team, like long term. And like if I'm just putting the 2 rosters up against each other, there's no question the Rangers are the superior. I believe they're both 29-30 entering play today. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're both 1 game under 500. I think the Rangers are far better when I just look at the 2 teams and their rosters and what I think they'll be the rest of the season. So I'm with Bryan. It's slightly lean toward the Rangers, but not something that made my card.
Yeah, and G. Hurt points out, how about the Rangers still priced like they're World Series champs? I don't think you can argue that at this price. You know what I mean? You got a road favorite coming in here.
I don't think they are anymore. I don't think they are.
Yeah,
anymore.
Maybe they were being early in the year, but I think that ship has sailed. I'm with you guys.
And here's another thing to note. In the 2 games, or 2 of the 4 games in that Boston series, Detroit was plus 150 at Boston. Now, Boston's been better than expected this year, but I mean, is Skubal really worth that? I mean, he's getting a lot of respect. We talk about this a lot on the show, that I get that Skubal can come in, be absolutely dominant, but that's basically Detroit's only path to victory here, right? Is if Skubal is totally dealing, because you just look at a lot of, and by the way, the Tigers' offense is not good. Generally, so I know they put up 8 runs yesterday, but the game went 10 innings, and half of them came in the 10th. So, it's curious how Detroit is priced on a game-by-game basis. Really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, and hey, I don't believe also in trap lines or anything like that. I think you scour the board, you try and find what prices make sense for you. One of the commenters in the chat eyeing the same thing that I was heading into this game, and it's whenever I find guys who are on hitting streaks, I want to ride that streak until I lose. I'll back it a couple times until they show that they're going into a cold streak, and that's Corey Seager. He's heading into this game, 15-game hit streak, reached base 25 straight games. So the bat is swinging well for our man Corey Seager there. I don't want to lay I wish we were getting total hits at 1.5, and I might even look towards that. But if you want to back his total hits over, it's a half, minus 255 and up. So I'm going to head to the total bases there. You can find it as high as like plus 135 for the over 1.5 total bases. I know you worry if he only gets on to first base, if he only gets a single, but for the points that these guys made, hey, maybe when we turn it on over to the bullpen, even if Skubal has a nice outing, there could be some hit potential. Why not go with the guy who's been racking them up? Corey Seager over the 1.5 total bases is the look for me. If you have any player props you like betting, hop below in the comments and let us know. We had a question earlier from our man Hal L with the photo of the man from the Happy Gilmore movie, which you love to see it. He's wondering Waldron on the mound for the Padres. They're the road favorite here, taking on the Angels to the surprise of no one. Just 2 wins in their last 10. They're opposing with Tyler Anderson. He's thinking that Waldron over strikes could be worth a look. How do you see this game shaking out, Trig?
Man, I'll defer to BP if he's got an opinion here. If not, I'll just kind of say
this one.
The pot. No, like the pot. Like I'm not playing the Angels at this point. Pretty much. I have no interest in backing that team, but the Padres, like long-term, are a team I think is very good. So it would have to just be lay the minus 145 with the Padres here or pass, but I'll throw it to BP. I don't know if he's got an opinion, but I just don't have
what do you think, BP?
Worth wasting time about here.
Yeah, I do. So first thing that jumps out to me when breaking down this matchup is how good the Padres have been on the road, 19-11, outscoring teams by 1.6 runs per game, and how absolutely horrific the Angels have been at home. 7-21, being outscored by 1.7 runs per game. That's worse than the White Sox. Though they're not in action, don't worry, I still got your White Sox reference for today. Beating Trig with the White Sox reference, as a matter of fact. But look, I would probably play first 5 laying the half a run with San Diego here, because Tyler Anderson, I don't know if there is a starter in all of baseball who has a bigger gap between actual and expected ERA. His expected ERA is nearly 4 full points higher than his actual ERA. You talk about a guy due for some negative regression. Tyler Anderson of the Angels would be that guy. The only reason this didn't make my client card a first 5 play on San Diego is because they struggle against lefties. And guess what? Anderson's a southpaw, so I don't know if Anderson can luck out for another outing or what, but it would be San Diego first 5 or pass for me. And I know maybe some people in the chat are saying, hey, the Angels bullpen stinks at home. I'm not going to disagree with you. It does stink at home. But you're having to lay now a pretty hefty price if you want to play Padres full game.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, go ahead, Trig.
No, I was just gonna say, that I kind of deferred that one because I have an opinion on Astros Cardinals, but finish up Padres first, and before we go there, I'll let you go.
Yeah, no, all I was going to say, and we can put a pin in it, is when you hear BP's thoughts, if you are looking towards Waldron, his thoughts are kind of correlated with what he's saying. You take him in the first 5, you figure that the pitcher is going to be pretty solid. And Waldron, hey, maybe he's putting something a little bit here together. It's not like he's been incredible as a starter, but he is coming off his best outing. That was against the Marlins. And if you want to say, well, it's against a bad hitting team, well, extrapolate that to what the Angels are doing at home right now. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
and Waldron's the only guy.
His strong start.
Yeah, Waldron's the only guy who throws a knuckleball in baseball too. So if you haven't faced him,
exactly,
like the Angels, that could be a tough matchup.
Yeah, and what do you want to do if you're struggling at the plate? You want to play a guy who's masterful with a knuckleball, right? Yeah, that should really help out being able to see what you're seeing there at the plate for sure. So, I'm with these guys in agreement. It's Padres or pass, basically across the board. So I guess that means maybe sprinkle a little something on the Angels money line. Who knows? But this one seems too straightforward. Waldron, I like the prop point out by our man Hal L as well. Trey kind of alluded to it about the Astros game, so let's swing it that way. Gibson and Verlander, this is one of those bigger prices on the board, like the Phillies game that we talked about. Talk about teams who are still getting priced like it's a different year. Somebody pointed out in the comments, the Astros are getting priced like it's 2022, and Verlander's getting priced like he's still in his prime. He's opposing Gibson here, and for what it's worth, I know it's not like St. Louis has been putting up runs in bunches and cash it overs and things like that, but they have taken down 7 of their last 10 games here, getting wins in that one, and it's not like Houston's been having terrific recent form at least. So, Trey, what's your thoughts in this one, since this was a game you had dog-eared?
Yeah, so I agree with the fact that the Astros do get priced like it is a different year. They're priced as if they're going to, kind of become that team. And I'm not sure if they will. And I've said this about Verlander for a while. Like, he's tough to back because he's always, you have to pay for the name with him. But right now, it's been worth it. Like, I've heard, anyone that says, Justin Verlander is not the same guy, really hasn't watched him pitch over the last month. He's been awesome. Like, I watched every pitch of his most recent start. I believe it was last Friday. Very unfortunate to not get a win in that game. Gave up 1 run over 7 innings against the Mariners, just 3 hits, 9 strikeouts. 3 of the last 4 starts, 8 strikeouts or more. There's really, if you go back to May 1st, Verlander's had 1 bad start. It was in the Bronx against the Yankees. I'll happily give him a pass there, because the Yankees, since May 1st, have just clobbered everyone and everything that's been thrown up, to that lineup for the most part. So I think Verlander's been great. And then you get the Cardinals, who are in a tougher spot than the Phillies. They had to play last night in Philly. Now they've got to go and travel to Houston. Like, that's certainly not an easy spot for them. I feel like Kyle Gibson's kind of been a revelation at this point in his career, to have the numbers that he has. Like, I think he's throwing the ball well, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some regression in his future. So, yeah, I'm not like dying to lay minus 175, but I certainly think the Astros is the right side here. So maybe if you love the Phillies and you can't figure out another way to play the Phillies, maybe you just do, maybe it's as simple as Phillies Astros, both home teams, money line parlay. I'd be shocked if it doesn't get there. It's not really my style, but I don't hate that if you like the two favorites there.
And BP, your thoughts on this one, because not only are you getting a St. Louis team who has to continue to travel, congrats, you got the win. It took them 10 innings to do it late on Sunday. They got to stay on the highway here. So, I mean, this feels like a slam dunk spot for Houston. So I definitely hear what Trig's saying there. Solid parlay piece. Is that how you see it? I mean, I know you like us talking us into ugly, stinky dogs. Well, one that just got in bed at like 3 a.m. last night, like our man in the chat is pointing out there. I mean, it seems like a slam dunk. It worries me when things feel that easy, BP.
I don't think the Cardinals are very good. The only two teams in the National League with the worst run differential are the Marlins and the Rockies. We talked about this game on the Morning Wager, Mark Zinno and I, and similar to what I said about Philadelphia earlier, it's interesting that Trig just said, hey, you could parlay the Phils and the Stros together. We said this morning, take the Astros over their team total because they can score at home, and that way you don't have to worry about Verlander necessarily. That's what I think I would do. I don't know. I think the Cardinals, the fact they're in second place in the NL Central is pretty fraudulent. So you're right. I don't want to back Houston at this price, but I concur with my colleague from New York that they are the correct side in this one. And also, shout out to exiled former GM from the Astros, Jeffrey Lunau, who, as you guys know, is now in the world of soccer. And his side, Leganés, just won the Segunda Division. They got promoted into La Liga yesterday. Hats off to him. Great frontline special on PBS. If anyone wants to check that out.
Yes, as we all know, BP. Congrats to him and his club, Mayonnaise. That is terrific stuff. Leganés. Gotcha. Bolognese. I got it. Bolognese. I won't forget that. That's Bryan Power. That's Adam Trigger. We got a great deal going on at WagerTalk right now where you can rock with your capper of your choice all the way through the end of June. You can find more details, wt.buzz/deals. It is a hell of a deal. Get action all month long for just over $7 a day. You pick any capper, get every release that they put out, including those 5% plays. So it is a great way to hop in if you haven't before. You can finish June, even though we're just starting June. Have a whole bang in June. That's the way that we'll say it. We hit every game on the card here. Two that we haven't yet is Mets, Nationals, Diamondbacks, Giants. It's because that's the best coming your way right now. BP, locked and loaded over at your page. I know you're looking forward to getting some NBA action going. It feels like it's been forever since we were able to talk NBA, but the NBA tip-off show will be back. You'll be back with it. What do you have locked and loaded for clients with that June promo, and how are we betting the Mets and the Nats in action tonight?
Yeah, we're seeing it well across all sports. They have 32-17, last 49 in the NBA, 17-5-1, last 23 in soccer, and 9-4, last 13 in Major League Baseball. And I'm going to give you a client play right here. This is one of 3 client plays I've got on Monday's card. And we're taking the Mets. I know that they have been kind of a laughing stock over the last week or so, but I don't think they should be an underdog here to the division rival Nationals, guys, even on the road. After the dreaded players-only meeting last week, the Mets did win back-to-back games, but they then immediately revert back to their previous ways, losing both Saturday and Sunday. I faded them on Saturday. I think Trig did as well. I thought it was a generous underdog price on the Diamondbacks in that game. But yesterday, the Mets looked like they had it won. They led 4-3 most of the way, the third through the 8th inning, and then they give up a 2-run homer in the top of the 9th to lose. Guys, the Mets have had horrific late game luck. Since May 1st, they've lost 6 games in which they led going into the 9th inning. No other team in baseball has lost more than twice in that situation during the same stretch. So the bullpen's definitely a problem, but I expect the luck to turn. I like McGill, tonight's starter. He's someone I'm looking to back. 0-3 team start record. That's very misleading. He's got a 1.69 ERA and a 1.0 WHIP. Not to mention, how about what he did last time against the Dodgers? 7 shutout innings of 3 hit ball. If he can do that to a lineup like the Dodgers, I think he can hold down the Nats, who almost got swept over the weekend here in Cleveland, but they avoided it with a 5-2 win on Sunday. But kind of a tough spot off a 7-game road trip. They're in the middle of a 17-game stretch with no off days. There were some key absences in the lineups. No Abrams, no Young. Gore's been good. He's the starter for Monday. But I don't think that justifies the price on the Nats here. Again, this is all about the price for me. The Mets can score on the road, guys. 5.2 runs per game. The Nats just 9-17 off a win this season. They only average 4.2 runs per game at home. Give me the Mets. I think the wrong team is favored in this one.
Yeah, and sure, the Mets bullpen might be bad, but they definitely are. At least, if we can say something good about them, they're more well rested than Washington coming in. Since that 5-2 win was largely thanks to those 3 shutout innings pitched at the end of the game by the Washington bullpen there. So, man, Julio saying, I'm on the Mets too because I'd rather feel pain than feel nothing at all. And that's
the spirit.
That sounds about right. The masochist hopping in or marching on up to the window. Jay Miz, before we get Adam Trigger's thoughts in for his best bet, Jay Miz pointing out because maybe you can't trust that bullpen. Mets first 5 worth a look at all, or is it full game or pass for you? Thoughts for you, BP, or if Trig, you want to chime in on that, I'll hear from either of you.
Yeah, I mean, I like McGill obviously a lot, but I sort of want to get the game beyond as much as, yes, and I acknowledge that the Mets bullpen is a big question mark. I kind of want to get beyond just the starters because I just, at the end of the day, I just feel the Mets are kind of due for a win. They're not as bad as they looked in May. They just aren't. I think they're going to improve. Whereas Washington, to me, remains a below average baseball team that should not be favored, I think, in this matchup.
Trey, I did. Go ahead, Trey.
I was just going to follow up his point by saying, I think it's shocking the Mets bullpen has blown this many games. Individually, they have very good relief pitchers. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You look at Ottavino, Garrett, Diaz obviously gets hurt, but as individuals, they have some solid bullpen options. So it almost doesn't make sense that they've done what they've done. It worked to my benefit yesterday. I had the Diamondbacks. So that was, something I was happy about. But man, that's not a bad, collectively, it shouldn't be a bad bullpen. So I would agree with Bryan. I'd rather have the full 9 here because I personally really like Mackenzie Gore. So I would rather have the full 9 if I was playing this game.
The individual pieces may be solid. The sum of all the parts thus far through the season, not been great here for the Mets. But like we said, and guys, if you don't want to give a like for Bryan Power, give a like for Adam Trigger, a like for me, give a like for Joe Ranieri behind the scenes, getting you bullpen usage numbers. Those are screenshots that will make you money for the rest of the week. So come on, man. If you don't want to hit the like button for us, which I understand sometimes, hit it for the great work done behind the scenes here. And Trig, let's get your thoughts here on the D-backs and the Giants. Price in this one. It's not like you have to lay crazy if you want to back the home side and Ryan Nelson. I'm wondering, have you seen the starter name for San Francisco, or does it not matter to you in this one? How are you betting it, and what do you got over at WagerTalk.com locked and loaded?
It definitely matters. I was hoping they were just going to say the hell with it and put Spencer Howard out as the starter because it would be a no-brainer play for me in that case. It's not. It's going to be Eric Miller, but all that means is he's just gonna open. So if you remember, Dan, we talked about Spencer Howard and the Giants last week on First Pitch. They were playing your Phillies, and to the Giants' credit, they did a great job of sort of hiding Spencer Howard in that game. He went third, so they went Miller, which is the same opener as tonight. They went to Taylor Rogers, and then they went to Howard, and he was great. He threw 4 shutout innings. I've watched a ton of him at the AAA level this year. It has not been impressive. It was probably his best outing of the year at any level, AAA or the big league. So I was hoping they were just going to start him tonight because they come into this game having used a little bit more bullpen. Doval was horrible yesterday, blew the game, 32 pitches. We're probably not going to see him today. Ryan Walker's pitched back-to-back days. So I was really hoping that the Giants would just come out and put Howard out there from the beginning. They're not going to do that, but I still think they're going to need they're going to ask for at least 4 or 5 from him, whether it be after Miller or further down the line. So I was trying to figure out how I wanted to play against Howard. I still think it's going to be just to play on the Diamondbacks because I still, you're going to get at least 4 to 5 from Howard, and then you're going to get that Giants bullpen, which has accumulated 238.1 innings pitched this season. It's second in the majors. The bullpen usage has been crazy for them. And so, they're coming in a little bit soft here after the blown save. I don't know that you're going to get the same effort you got against the Phillies last week, Dan, which I believe was a 10-inning shutout. I think they won that game 1-0 in 10 innings. So I don't think you're going to get that today from Howard plus the bullpen guys, which will still probably be the same relievers that sort of, sandwiched him last week. The Giants, in addition to a tired bullpen and a starter I want to play against, now have 14 guys on the IL. Well, if Snell, in fact, goes on the injured list, I believe that'll be the 14th Giant to hit that this year, or to hit that right now. That might not be the case for by first pitch today. That's another thing I'm waiting to kind of see with this game is the lineup. So Michael Conforto played over the weekend in Sacramento. He could be back. But they've been without Thairo Estrada, who's got a thumb injury. He hasn't played the last 2 games, so those 2 would kind of offset, in my opinion. Casey Schmidt's a guy that I loved at the AAA level. He's gotten called up. I think he's homered now twice since being called up, so that's a nice addition for them. But collectively, that team is very, very banged up. We know Jung Ho Lee's out for the year. Austin Slater was still down in AAA. I don't think he's ready to come back yet. It's just been a host of injuries for the Giants, and it's going to be tough for them to overcome all of those injuries long term, which is why I'm kind of willing to play against them. Now, Arizona's a team that I've played, back-to-back games. Bryan and I had them on Saturday. We both won. I came back with them yesterday, got a little bit fortunate, but it's notable. It's worth pointing out that big hit from Ketel Marte was really what the D-backs have been lacking for like the week coming into this past weekend. Arizona's now hit 7 home runs since Friday. They've scored 24 runs in that span. If you go back to the week leading into that Mets series, I think they had gone over a week without a home run. So it's one of those things where the whole team seemed to be slumping at the same time, and now they're all starting to break out. There was a really impressive weekend for them in New York, and so now they get to kind of come back home. Now they get to come back to the West Coast, and I do think they're going to continue to play well. So I have not added this to my client card yet. It's something that I'm considering. I may wait until the last second. I may wait to see a lineup here. Now that we know it's Miller, we know Howard's probably going to be in this game at some point. I might wait for starting lineups, in which case I will give it out for free. So just stay tuned to my Twitter at TopFlightSI. If I bump this the client play status, I will just post it for free. I want to see if the Giants are going to have like Conforto, Estrada, all the boys in the lineup tonight. If they're not, I probably have to come in and play the Diamondbacks just because Howard's a guy I've wanted to fade, and the Giants are really up against it right now with bullpen usage and just the number of injuries that have hit them all at the same time. So I think Arizona continues to play well, and I would strong lean toward the Diamondbacks, and I'll let you know if I'm going to play it or not.
Yeah, I mean, them traveling, they're coming back home here. For me, BP, in this one, and I know you're one of my guys who I love chatting totals with. I know that the over, even sitting at 9 at that key number, we're seeing some juice towards the over here. If San Francisco doesn't bring the same bats that they brought against the Yankees in the final game, it's been 5, 3, 2, 1, 1, 4. Like the hits just haven't been there for the Giants. And if the Giants don't hit in this game, I don't see how it goes over 9. Like that was what stood out to me in this game. I'm not shirking at the look here for Trigg laying it there with the D-backs at home, but for me, that total just, even at that key number, it seems high to me. Can you talk some sense into that for me?
Well, you look at what these teams give up. Giants give up
True.
5.3 runs per game on the road. D-backs give up 5.1 runs per game at home. I agree with Trig that D-backs to the right side here, no matter who the Giants throw out. That was kind of how I interpreted it this morning. Obviously, the questions around, just who the Giants would be sending out initially kept it off my client card. But Arizona's a team that I expect will play a little better here in June.
Okay.
I like the Padres better. The Giants, on the other hand, are a team that I am looking to fade. They had that stretch last month, guys, where they were really lucky. They were coming from behind a lot from big deficits, like 4-run deficits. I have the Giants as the 4th best team in this division, ahead of only the Rockies.
So,
all right, guys, go ahead, Trig.
I want to throw one thing out in regards to the total, because it's one other reason that I haven't locked this in yet and made it a play, and ultimately what might keep me off here. Ryan Nelson, the starting pitcher for the Diamondbacks, has been far worse at home. And I don't know if it's because Chase Field has always been a hitter's park. If you go back 10 years, that was consensus. Major league players would say that was the best place to hit, even above and beyond Coors Field. And then they messed with the balls a little bit, and it's I don't know that it still plays the same way. But from a batter's eye, hitting standpoint, players love to hit there. And so Nelson's batting average against at home is 100 points worse than it is on the road. And that was one thing where it's he's really gotten knocked around at Chase Field, even though I think he could potentially pitch well, and that may start to normalize a little bit. I still think it's worth pointing out. And I actually think I would lean toward the over based on the fact that he's given up some runs at home. Howard could get lit up. If you've watched this dude pitch at AAA, he did not look like he did in those 4 innings against the Phillies for most of the season down in Sacramento. So I actually lean toward the over here. I think you could see some runs, but I do think the D-backs will end up on the right side of that high-scoring game.
All right, hop below in the comments. Let us know. Side total, how are you looking to bet it? That's the best bets for the gentleman there. Mets, money line, D-backs on the money line as well for Adam Trigger, and that Mets play from our man Bryan Power. It kind of ties into what we've talked about all show long, so I don't think we'll get much dissension from you guys. Our man Lunchbox, RJ, over on the YouTube Shorts feed, put together a little 4-piece. This one is getting you about almost 9-1 on the take back. BP, he's saying Astros, Reds, Padres, Mets, money line parlay. What could go wrong? What do we think about our man's parlay there? I mean, we talked about all 4 of those games, and he's kind of seeing the games the way you are. Are we sprinkling this bad boy?
What could go wrong? Well, let's think positively. How about that? I like all 4 of those sides, and I would endorse that. Yeah, I would endorse that. Believe it or not, if it's don't put your life savings on it. I mean, that's always important to note with these parlays. But I do like all 4 sides he is on there. So, get out with your bad self on a Monday.
Well, the Mets, Trig, what's your thoughts there on the 4-piece? Almost 9-1 on the take back.
Kind of lean Rockies, to be honest. That would be the one that
that could be the spoiler.
That's the one that scares me there. I agree with Bryan on the Mets. I was the one that kind of gave Astros out here, so I've got to obviously agree with that. If forced to choose, I would be on the Padres in that game. So yeah, I would. If you toss the Reds out, I think I'd like it. That would be my take. So
BP, I will say, when we were doing the best bets and you were breaking down the Mets, there were so many people who were like, he says, forget this game and bet the Sun first half. There you go, a little WNBA play from Leg Show magazine. You never.
The Sun do not play today. The WNBA is not in action today. That would be tomorrow.
He's getting a little tomorrow sprinkle. So we can still bet these and then bet that tomorrow. Good shout out there by our man Leg Show Magazine. Wow, it looked like a major award, like in a Christmas story there. But BP, when we were talking about that Mets game before we sign off here, there was a lot of people that were like, only Bryan could get us to bet the Mets today. So there's a lot of people riding here with the Mets. I called it the BP legacy game. So let's get this one home. If not, every graphic that we put up on tomorrow's show will just be the mullet picture of Bryan Power. So you're not on the show with us tomorrow, but this is the legacy
I'll be back Wednesday. And I come on, Mets, don't let me down. Don't let me down.
Here we go. The Metropolitans.
The pictures that Joe Ranieri has of me are unbelievable.
Yeah. Lord Farquaad censored himself. I'm really about to take the Mets money line. Yes, we are Lord Farquaad, and we're cashing with it. Let's go. Shout out to these guys. If you appreciate the content, hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed because, as we talked earlier, we got the NHL playoffs, Stanley Cup finals. That's coming up. We're going to have breakdowns all over the channel on that, and NBA finals as well. So if baseball might not be your thing, don't worry. We got sports coming your way, but you better get ready for baseball to be your thing because it's about to be the only dance in town. So tell people about First Pitch. We'll be rocking through the entire season here. We appreciate you on the way out. Hit that little bell and stay tuned because we got all the info you need to cash on all the sports you love coming around the clock here on WagerTalk TV. Best of luck until next time, folks. We'll see you on Tuesday.